Vamos seguir agora com o João Motta. A TED Talk dele é Returning from a Research Internship Overseas and Influencing People Around You. Essa é a segunda vez que eu peço para o João fazer essa apresentação. Ano passado, ele fez essa apresentação aqui em São Paulo, né? No AC Expo e mobilizou muito. Na verdade, foi uma plateia de estudantes que queriam estudar na Austrália e foi muito inspirador para eles também e acho que vai ser aqui para a gente novamente. Obrigada, João.
Good day, everyone. So I walk you guys through a bulky, old-fashioned presentation, very different from Camila's presentation, because this is sort of my style, and I didn't assimilate that to the moment. So my intention here is to present you how can you come back to your home country and disseminate new ideas and maybe promote a change of behavior on your local research environment. My experience is basically on the university environment, okay? So I think that maybe some of these insights can be transferred to research, industry research scenarios, okay? So please feel free to come across and talk whenever you want. And I won't touch anything on my technical research and stuff like that, but if you feel interested on that, just come along, all right? So let's go. So first of all, who's this guy talking to you? So my technical background, I won't say that I am a geologist because it sounds like a bit odd now, but my technical background is as a geologist. But first of all, I tried to be a physicist back in 2006, okay? I just gave up. That was not for me. I do like physical phenomena and observation of natural phenomena and stuff like that. That's why I got into geology. But I don't want too many numbers on my things, all right? So after I graduated, I tried to be an exploration geologist. I've been in the market for a few years, and I decided to go back studying again. I observed that when you use physics on your everyday life as exploration geologist, things work really well. So I decided to pursue a master's on applied geophysics on modeling of gravity to retrieve the architecture of the Earth, all right? That was quite boring at the moment because actually I felt that I should do something that's more applicable, that people can take a look and see, oh, this is quite useful because I was doing like theoretical stuff. Who cares what's the geometry of a place on Earth that was being deformed on the Neoproterozoic 500 million years ago if there is nothing on it, just odd rocks? Who cares? But if you add ore deposits on it, things get quite cool. So after my master's, I decided to pursue a PhD at the University of Campinas. That's my actual role at the moment. So I decided to change scales, go back further in the atmosphere and use satellite data instead of ground gravity data and so on. So what's the perspective from satellites? Why that? European Space Agency, NASA, lots of the German Space Research Agency spend lots of money on space research to get data for us, and geologists don't really care about them. So I asked myself, why? Well, the thing is that the data is too coarse. You don't see too much on them. But that doesn't mean that that thing is not useful, right? You just need to get a lab geek and try to unscramble this data, right? So that's me. So in 2016, I started as a research newbie, just finished my master's. My supervisor is quite a straightforward guy. He said to me, look, we don't know how to do these things you want to do, so fuck off, go somewhere else. Okay, we go to Italy. 1 month in Italy, crash course, how to process this satellite data, how to get useful information from them. So I came back to Brazil, ate a lot of pizza, lots of beautiful places in Italy, and I knew how to process those data. Okay, cool. Next step. Where should I go to discuss this data? I knew how to process them and retrieve some information, what that means. I've been following for some time many researchers in Australia that they dominate the field of applied geophysics, specifically one group on Monash University. I just decided I need to go there. I need to find a way to go there. So I was in Italy and I saw the call for the embassy's PhD research internship for 2017, and I just thought, that's me. Eventually I made it, and I went to Monash University in 2017. It was awesome. 3 months of really good personal and technical growth, all right? But I was not happy, because I need to come back to Brazil. So I want to go there again. Fortunately, I got the opportunity to go there with the CNPQ program and CAPIS programs, which is the PDSE, postdoctoral research internship, and blah, blah, blah. Cool. Did that, 6 months more, returned 2 months ago, all right? So growth, that's the word to describe it, growth. So, that was me. This is me in South Australia doing field work. It is very interesting place, very dry. If you apply sunscreen, the sunscreen dries and doesn't protect you. That's quite odd, okay? And this is just sort of geeky maps that I produced to try to make something cool. So what can I say from my time abroad? This is Italy. Italy was very short time on my research. This is the Pompeii Amphitheater, awesome place. Just aside the Vesuvius volcano, awesome place. I do recommend you guys go there. But most of my international things happened in Australia. This is my supervisor, Peter Betts, lovely guy, love this guy. He turned out to be a good friend now. This is Robin Armit, another professor, cool fella here. The truck just got bogged in the sandbar, doing field work. This is my swag, sleeping under the stars in the desert in the middle of nowhere in South Australia. Awesome experiences, my fellas from Argentina and Italy. I was very fortunate to get a snow shower during camp in Victoria. Awesome with these fellas from Argentina and Germany. Love these guys. They are my brothers now. Awesome bird, red-tailed black cockatoo, majestic. All right, and very good friends. My first international conference with my friends. My partner went there. Awesome place we have there. So Australia is a very nice place, guys. Tell you that. Personal growth was awesome. I learned how to tackle distance. Lots of cool things happened. I learned a little bit of work-life balance, as Deborah just said. How to respect differences in the multicultural environment, especially in the workplace. It's something that we need to learn about, and I'll talk about that in a few. So learn how to get your stuff together, because you're all by yourself. Just do it. Just do it, mate. Mateship is awesome. It's a kind of different way of having a friendship, because, I don't know, Australians they are quite straightforward. No, it's very hard to say if they like something or they don't like it. Stuff are quite fuzzy here in Brazil, I would say. So professional enlightenment, learning about work culture, research mindset, how to develop a very powerful and broad research mindset. Cooperation is key. I learned that very hard because I'm quite isolated in my research group here. And learning about the Australian culture was really, really awesome for me. So talking about the scientific only side, so science abroad is commonly multidisciplinary. That's something that we don't really do here. I talk about my field, but I would like to hear about your fields of research as well. So why are we not like that in general? I want you to think about it. Why are we not multidisciplinary in here in most of the cases. So why we have such a closed group mentality? It's like, okay, there are cases here in Brazil that I heard, and I have seen that as well, that you have 2 different groups working with similar stuff in the same building. What's that? Getting funding is so hard these days. Why don't you talk to each other, make something bigger? Why not? So don't be jealous and greedy. Share what you know. You can promote growth with that, right? So be courageous with your ideas, because sometimes you're just like diminishing what you think about yourself, and you're doing great stuff, but you're just not stepping forward, right? So broaden your research, and you can run innovative and cheap science as well. Sometimes it works, okay? We're living in a technological revolution now. It's not that difficult to get data these days. So why not mine old data with new ideas, test new sets of ideas, test new theories? Why not? That's not supposed to be so expensive. I'm doing that myself. I don't collect data myself or my research. I'm doing a PhD in geophysics with that, right? So creativity and tackling difficulties, we're really good at that. I heard that many times from my peers and colleagues in public institutions in Australia, because I visited some geological surveys and other universities in Cairo in Australia as well. So people just told me that, you Latin Americans are good, you guys are creative. I promote, make a question now. If we are that good in being creative and such, why we don't revolutionize this country and the science in here? Why? I want you guys to ask ourselves, all right? So, and sometimes you just need to talk to the right person to get things going, all right? So this is just part of my current research, all right? So this is a paper just published 2 months ago in Scientific Reports, quite a multidisciplinary and a little bit cool journal, right? This just happened because I was the core that joined Brazil with Italy and South Africa, because one of my collaborators is from South Africa. That's what emerged when we coalesced all those things. So it did not cost too much. The only thing that really cost a lot was to publish it in the journal, because it's big money, all right? But my supervisor hopefully helped that out. So this is what came out from my first visit in Australia. Paper just published, very good collaboration. The community really enjoyed this collaboration. I'm receiving very good feedback from the community now. Working on a major ore deposit in South Australia, which is the major deposit in Australia at the moment for copper, uranium, and a ton of other elements. Is the Olympic Dam deposit, okay? So I would just talk some few words on what I do. What I do is the opposite of what the other colleague just talked about. She talked about how to extract minerals. My work is about finding minerals, right? Finding prospective geologic environments to find new deposits, all right? And to do that, I'm making a comparison on this raw coarse data from satellites and taking a look on how they help us to find known deposits so we can extrapolate to other deposits, all right? It just makes things easier, because delving in mineral exploration is very tricky and risky, and, you know, science. So how does it feel to return home from overseas? Did you guys ask ourselves about this? I just substituted the words that were here. I actually wrote bad, all right? But I think I should be more polite, but I'm saying I'm very straightforward on my thoughts, all right? Definitely felt something that was quite bad, all right? Because you felt disappointed with your home country, you felt sad to leave a probably brilliant work environment. That happened to me. So you felt like you made a step back in your career, Deborah. There any power and other reasons like security, financial settings, and everything. All right. It can take a little while, but you'll feel it. All right. So let's proceed with the good stuff. Did you want to share your experience? Did you guys want to raise hands and say to me you wanted to share? All right, cool. So did you felt like promoting change around you somehow? Oh, that sounds good. So did you felt like you can make things different for yourself? Oh, even better. So did you saw possibilities to grow within your not so brilliant environment? All right, a little bit decreasing numbers. Okay, so did you guys reflected how you can use your new mindset and your new capabilities on changing the environment? By environment, I mean your research group, the colleagues that work on different subjects, but they are still around you. And you can even transfer these to your everyday life, your partner, or family, I think. We got a different mindset when you come back. We're different persons, all right? So it's very powerful to promote change in the society, especially in a society like the Brazilian society, which is at the moment in a very tragic moment. So questions. Are you acting correctly? Like, did you ever thought how did you end up going overseas? Like talking to your colleagues? Because sometimes you have that cool, geeky colleague, research colleague that's always thinking about going abroad, but he cannot find a way to get there. Did you guys ever talk about that with someone? So help people to find funding online, trying to get lucky, and writing projects to go abroad, all right? You did that. You should share that, all right? So why are you going necessarily to that place on Earth? Because sometimes we follow trends on science. People are doing really cool stuff in Sweden. Wow, I need to go to Sweden. Sweden is just a hypothetical place, all right? It could be Angola, all right? So think about that critically, right? Because sometimes if you do follow trends without even, perceiving, and we should be critic on science. Don't follow trends, because sometimes trends are just a bias because of economic problems and mismanagements like we're seeing in the outside world now. So what can you share when you come back? Just talk to people, all right? Talk about the slangs, talk about your travels, talk about the research culture, talk about everything. You can do it with blogging, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Anyway, you just need to spread the message, all right? So, but what you need to share, because, it's quite obvious that you say that Australia is awesome, yeah, awesome, yeah, everything's awesome there. I agree. But be critical about what you say, because words have power. If you say to someone, for example, someone that is thinking about a specific university, and you say, that university, I heard that the budget on that university just lowered. Some people can think about that like, oh man, I think it's not really good if I go to that university. Like, but did you really know something about that? We have a really problematic behavior here in Brazil that we do comment things like in broad sense. Lots of generalizations, they are quite dumb sometimes. Take care of what you share. So are you really promoting change? Did you really think about that? Or did you just go abroad, get your experience, come back, finish your thesis, your master's, whatever you're doing, and you don't share anything? Look, we just talked about the Science for Borders program yesterday. Lots of bad comments, which I totally agree. And I wonder how things could be now if we made something different, like the programs for research, for graduate research that we have, like the PDSE program, they are not really like Science Without Borders because we're more focused. We have grown. We just stepped from the undergrad level to the graduate level. So we know more or less what we want. So we know what we can do when we are there and what we can do when we come back, right? When you go as an undergrad, probably things are more fuzzy, all right? You get a higher degree of liberty to do whatever you want, and that's why you get bad outcomes of that, all right? So things can be really different if we do work properly. And it's our role now, because we got money from federal budget from Australia, we got budget from Brazilian government to do this. It's our role to change things now. And we really need to change our universities in here. Okay? So remember, we're social magnets. What you say usually spreads and comes back to you. So if you say bad things, you get bad things back. So how can I influence people and promote change? Look, I know that most things I'm talking at the moment, they are quite obvious. Yes, I agree. But sometimes doing the obvious things can be quite difficult because we get caught in series of procrastination, we get caught in series of hardwired thinking, and we don't do the obvious things. We want to do like the big leap forward. I'm not talking about the China big leap. No, please don't. What I'm talking about is like you can do small steps every day and promote change. Like that colleague that just on the corner on the graduate lab, and he's like, oh, I don't have no one to talk about my data. Come on, guys. We are scientists. Even if it's not your or own subject field, talk about with your colleagues. We sometimes feel desperate to talk about our data, to unscramble them and get the whole story in your mind. We know how it feels like to be stuck. Do you want people around you to be stuck? Did you ever felt stuck? It's terrible. So, did you ever consider giving a seminar on your experience? Do it. It's harmless. So, do your group have specific group meetings to discuss science and stuff? As far as I know, at least in geoscience, it's not a very common thing. And usually these group meetings end up not really well, not real growth. It's more about getting people together, sharing updates and stuff, but people do not crunch the thing. They don't promote real scientific growth sometimes. It's more about getting people together to put on a list. Oh, we had a meeting this day. Come on, we don't need that. We need growth. So, did you ever felt or consider yourself being really collaborative? There's many ways. You can read manuscripts, talk ideas out of your head. You can have breaks with your colleagues to release the stress over coffee and stuff like that. And sometimes ideas, they just jump off in your head. And you talk about them, and things work, all right? That's what happened to me in Australia many times, having coffee with my supervisor, with my colleagues, talking about ideas. Maybe you can explore those ideas and promote change on your own research. Do new science, you know? We're here in a very multidisciplinary community at the moment. People that work on coastal management, people on education, people that work with small organisms in biology, people from health sciences, biologists, people on law. Look, we're scientists somehow. Why don't we talk to each other? And can you transpose that to your everyday life? I would say so. So, act proactively. Do it. Listen to other people's ideas, talk about your ideas, and everything. Read your friends' manuscripts, help them with their data analysis. Did you ever consider learning about science outside your own subject? That can be very productive because you can learn new strategies, new mathematical methods and stuff like that. That really helped me. I did not really wanted to have my my results presented as very mathematical things, because things in geoscience, they're a little bit old-fashioned, actually. It's not like you can have good correlations about stuff, because they are very complex process in general. But I learned with papers in psychology, neurology, because my partner is a neurologist, and people from biology, that graphs are good. They're really good, and sometimes they do prove a good point, even in complex systems. So I decided I'll start to make graphs now, not only qualitative and subjective models, numbers, precise numbers. People like that. Don't forget that we are just grown-up monkeys somehow in a broad, dumb generalization. We're social, okay? These guys here, they are sharing the moment. Let's share the moment in the science realm, all right? So why should I bother, actually? Look, if you're a real scientist, you don't want to see science declining. You want to see it growing up, all right? So science is a community affair relationship. Like, these guys are connected in here. Not these guys, I'll talk about them in a few. So if you end up something in science, you probably will end up ignored. People usually learn that the hard way when they get the rebuttal letter from the editor. Look, you didn't consider this sort of evidence and the work by that group on your own paper. Don't ignore. Talk. Even if it goes against your own purposes or your own ideas, talk about it. Don't ignore that. And don't ignore even your colleague just to your side talking that your idea might be incorrect. Don't ignore that. All right? Scrutinize that. So local science is doomed and dead science. Look, we're talking about a big environment in here. If I just consider one of these own chairs, who cares? The important thing is how we got this set of chairs. All right? It's just dumb, ordinary example. Think about your own research. If you're doing just local stuff that no one really cares. I know this can sound a little bit outrageous in the Brazilian scientific community, because we do have lots of very large, terrible local issues that we must tackle. Just put it in a bigger perspective. All right? It works. It works really well. So there's a word out there. So shared skills lead to enhanced powers. Nowadays, we need to use many sorts of data and different approaches and techniques on our research. Sometimes it can be quite hard for you to know everything. The best way to tackle that is to have a co-author, a collaborator that knows that sort of thing that you don't really know how to do. That's growth. That makes things easier, that speed up the process. Research is really speed up in Australia. I learned that the hard way. And I just observed that the thing is that it's really shared science. There are groups, not individuals, okay? Groups of people working together and making things in a speed up way, all right? So broaden your perspective, okay? Because no one holds the sole truth, not a book, not a person, okay? The truth is out there. Many people know it. Some of them share, some of them not. But there is no sole truth. Sometimes you just don't have the precise evidence, all right? Don't be like these guys. There is a fence over here. They are poking the outside world. Don't be the poke, the stick. Don't be the people on the other side of the fence. Be the part of the community, all right? And the thing is that if you don't share this feeling and you don't share this perspective, you end up as an empty bookshelf. What's an empty bookshelf? It's something that is void, no value add up, you know? Do you ever felt good knowing that your research is ignored and not well valued to the community? That's quite bad. So some takeaway messages. Leadership is a very important thing these days, right? Small acts count a lot. So everyone is a cell in the scientific or not society, all right? Think yourself about as a cell within a big organism. So whatever you share reaches other people eventually. So take care about what you share, okay? So promote change, good change, please. So being proactive is really necessary these days because the budgets are a real problem, all right? So the academic environment should not be a bunch of solo flyers. Shake hands, walk hand in hand, all right? I know sometimes it's quite hard when you're in a tight deadline and it's like the people don't really help you out. They are lazy or whatever. They got other commitments and stuff like that. It happens. We know that. So it's better together. It costs you almost nothing to share the positive effect from your experience abroad. And eventually you get a free coffee or beer if you're lucky. That's quite good, especially if it's a Friday. Okay? Probably you guys are aware of that. Such terrible things happening on the outside world, Brazilian outside up. Time's up, sorry. So I'll just finish quickly. Things are quite bad at the moment, so don't you think that if you promote growth and be proactive and collaborative, we cannot tackle that? Okay, budgets are being cut up and shortened. Instead of having 5 applications, why don't you guys have just one application with a bigger group and work together? That can make a difference, all right? Even speed up the process. So this is just from Clarivate, highly cited researchers. I have done a quick research on the geosciences field, and the second most cited author is Brazilian. He's from University of São Paulo. So he's from Brazil. Why don't I talk to that guy? I'm thinking about that at the moment. If he's highly seated, what he's doing at the moment? What can I learn from him? Do my experience can be, how can I say that? Can sum up to his experience and we can collaborate. Why not? I don't see why not. All right? So think about it. So that's all I have for you guys. Thanks for listening to this gibberish I was talking about. And I hope it makes sense sometime in your own minds. And that's it. I think that Victor has a question. Is okay?
Why we don't have this environment here? And I think our strength is also our weakness. And something that I realized when I was there is that we mix our personal life with our professional life. And that's not happening anywhere. So we talk about our personal life during our work, and usually it's not good things, and you're contaminating people around. So this is something that I realized. I never had the opportunity to talk about what my personal life during my work, but outside I was talking about my personal life. So this is something that I realized that we shouldn't mix. And I say it's our weakness and our strength because people around the world, they like this passion that we have. We are passionate people, so we are always emotional. We have this with us. But this is a weakness too, because we think that we cannot talk about our work because people think about, oh, he's selfish, he's showing off. And that's not true. You're just talking about your work. And just to finish, just to be really quick, and then I want to ask you if you have the same feeling. Sometimes I look around and I realize that I'm an average of 5 people that live around me. You're the average of these people. So if you live in an environment where people only complains, you start complaining, even if you're not a kind of people that complains a lot. Because you're in an environment where you're talking about things, bad things, and you start talking about bad things too. And this is what we do a lot in Brazil. We complain a lot. So we contaminate the environment. And I haven't seen this there in anywhere that I've been so far.
Yes,
So
yes.
here's my question for you, and what do you think about it? Should we first stop talking about personal life at work? And we can look at our WhatsApp groups that we have with professional people. Always lots of jokes and mixing things. That happens. It's part of our culture. I understand, but it shouldn't be. At least not at this time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So here's my question for you. Do you think that we can change this culture, be more professional at work, and like the Australian, what they do is they talk about these things during coffee breaks or doing some parties after work? Do you think that we can do that? Do you think we can change this culture and talk about work at work and talk about personal life outside the academy?
All right. Well, Vitor, I do think that we tend to do this we are committed to this bad behavior in our everyday life. I think I say that's bad because it takes time. And we sometimes overwork, okay? We got extended working hours because you did not really do what you had to do. And I say that I even get myself into that sometimes I'm checking my cell phone, delving with my personal matters during work time. It's quite hard because nowadays we're connected in any place we are. Like you get notifications, you got new email and stuff like that. Sometimes things are mixed. And I do believe that if we can manage that, how to manage your own time, we can do better. I agree that we are really passionate people. We are quite different. Our mindset's quite different from Australians and whatever other sort of people you work on your groups abroad. That's not bad, but I just would say that it should be controlled. And if you read some books by some really good book writers these days like Yuval Harari and these guys on Homo Deus, Sapiens and stuff like that, they say that we just lost control. We just lost the grip. Time's flowing through our own hands because we are overflowed by information or information that comes from or work that comes from personal matters, whatever. We just can't grasp that. It's too much. If we don't pay attention to our own behavior in our everyday life, you're overflowed. And I think that it's a very good, it's an interesting thing that happens to us as Brazilians because we're passionate and we just driven out. And I totally agree.
Yeah, I have this experience because sometimes I start talking about my personal life and people change the subject immediately, If you're talking about somebody, oh, I'm tired, I'm looking for a house. Oh, do you want to go out tonight? It's a completely changed the subject right now. So they don't talk about bad things at work. And I think that works because then you create a good environment and people start being more creative. They start talking about good things and you change the whole system.
Yeah. I share that. Thanks.